Hello, everyone, and welcome to OpenExO Live. It's really great to be with you a little bit earlier than we are usually on OpenExO Live, and that's because this week we have Mais Jauhary, and I probably said that wrong, who's calling in from Bahrain, originally from Jordan, but now living in Bahrain. And you could see there on the screen we have some amazing community members coming up in the next couple of weeks. A reminder that if you are in the OpenExO community and you want to join us here on OpenExO Live, just head to the marketplace and you can apply to join us on OpenExO Live. We do still have some openings for this 4th season of OpenExO Live. And before we get Mais up on screen, I do have a few messages from some community members that have been sent through. And the first one comes from Sahar, and she just said, Mais joined me in leading the Women for Impact initiative back in 2020. She is hardworking and passionate about making a positive impact in the world. She's an advocate for working mothers everywhere. I have no doubt that she will achieve great things in everything she does. And then next we have from Chanda. I had the pleasure of collaborating with Mais as a cohort member as part of the EXO Coach Certification Program during 2021. She truly brought the woman power to the team, immense energy, creative and valuable inputs throughout the 6 weeks. Her passion for contributing at scale while being part of the OpenExO community through different endeavors regionally as well as globally is inspiring. I do look forward to having the joy of working together again in some shape or form in the near future. We then have from Soledad. She said, Mais is a very strong exponential woman. I admire how dedicated she is to the work she does and how clearly and brilliantly she presents any idea or concept. She makes things easy for everyone. And then lastly, from Kelly, Mais is a truly dynamic and thoughtful leader. I have had the privilege of working closely with Mais through the Women for Impact initiative and more broadly within the EXO community. Wow. It is always a treat co-creating with Mais. I am always inspired by her ability to help teams find a path of creativity, openness, and clarity on what is needed next. Look forward to our future endeavors. So those are just some messages from the community. And so I'm now going to call on Mais up onto screen. Mais, if you can share your video there, I will then get you up here. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Good. Actually, I'm very humbled by hearing these words. I didn't know you were going to put them.
That's always a surprise, and I really enjoy actually, contacting community members, finding out, what they have to say about one another, and really love how, how we always find people who have done something together and have great things to say about folks. So, I always start by just asking you to share a little bit about yourself. For those who are watching, tell us, who's Mais and how you came to join the OpenExO community.
Okay, as you said, I'm originally from Jordan. I reside in Bahrain. I've lived in the MENA region for a while. Originally, I was a telecom engineer, and I started my career with some time-punching machine installation, geographical information software, kind of data migration. And then I moved to the telecom industry, which was my expertise. And there I moved to the project management, and I got my PMP. Currently, I run my own small creative business agency here in Bahrain. Actually, I got to know about the EXO from Sahar, the first person who had a really nice word to say about me. She is a fellow alumni from my business school. And once we were sitting down, she said, Mais, I have something for you. I think you're going to really like it. And I said, okay. So she showed me the EXO model. She showed me some videos for Salim. She said, check it out. And the minute I saw it, I felt I could connect. Like I could sense the business sense that Salim had. And I kind of was really interested. So I moved and I did the foundations. And from there, also, Sahar started contacting me about wanting to start the Women for Impact. Because at that time, I was doing the Grow Eve, which is also a women enabling program. And she said, you want to come on board? And the Women for Impact journey is another story.
Awesome. And so that is one other thing that I often find about these interviews is it's usually, I would say probably like 50% of people have joined the community because of another community member, someone who said, hey, you need to look at this, you need to you need to understand it. And so and often it's because people are quite inspired by the model, by OpenExO, our MTP, and the whole idea of massive transformative purpose being really core to the EXO methodology. And I'm always interested in understanding the community members that come on, what your MTP is, whether it's for your personal MTP or the MTP for your organization. Are you happy to share
that? Actually, the word creativity was mentioned a few times, and I really like that in the feedback from other people, because I chose my MTP to be transforming work through creativity. You see, creativity is often misunderstood. The word itself has many aspects to it. Okay, so it is about the ideas, not only about the designs and the art aspect of it. So it is about the fluency of the ideas, the flexibility, variety, originality of the ideas, and how you convey it, right? And these creative ideas, if you want to have a realistic translation examples for them in real life, think about the business model canvas, for example, as a continuation and elevation of the business plan, or any virtualization of work like the Zoom and the Miro. So with these kind of new ways of working, you see how design has become so vital. Not only the user experience, but design as a whole for all companies, for all businesses. It adds to the value, it boosts sales, and it is reflected directly into the financial situation. Actually, I read something about Adobe, and they said a statistic, and they said that companies with great designs outperform companies that have low representation of design by 219%. That's a big number, because today design does matter a lot. So I want to be part of that, right? I want to add value to that space in my own way. And the great thing is my experience is a unique combination between arts and business, and it just came naturally to me having this purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. So many people think that, oh, I'm not artistic, or I can't draw, therefore I'm not creative, which I sort of follow the school of thought that we're all creative because we have to be to be able to survive and decide what to do, and even just deciding what shirt you're going to wear could be a form of creativity, right? At its sort of I guess simplest form. And what you were saying about design, I mean, is so important. I can remember also reading an article about the Airbnb platform and how they design trust into that platform in such a way that they were able to actually get people to use their product, right? I mean, remember, so many VCs turned them down, saying, who's going to let strangers stay in their house? And it really was all about designing that trust into all the processes. And I know that when the EXO model was created, there was a long debate about where does design thinking fit, and Salim speaks about this, quite often, saying that design thinking is a thinking process that should be in every organization, for sure. And and we have quite a few, design thinking practitioners that leverage EXO as well. And that's one thing that I think many people like about the EXO model. And it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on this, sort of, having gone through some of the certifications as well, on the learnings of actually implementing the model, right? Because I think that it is a bit of a meta model. It doesn't replace other models. It just augments. It can augment the business model. It can augment the lean startup movement. It can augment a scaling up methodology, for example.
Actually, in my workshops, I say that. I say there's 3 levels, and the basic one is what you learn in a business school, and then you have the lean and agile and the new thinking, and then you have the EXO on top, which you need to learn the basics too first to be able to implement the EXO.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, but it really allows you to then, sort of take that learning, I guess, to the next level. And so I know you work with quite a few small businesses, startups. What would you say has been your experience sort of looking at EXO in that space?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. Actually, this is maybe the highlight of my experience with the EXO, because when I was doing the consultant certification, you have to do the project and you have to go ahead and go out in the world and find your clients. So yes. I thought, although the EXO methodology is initially designed to help businesses, big businesses, beat disruptions or ride the wave to exponential transformation, but since the methodology was really progressive, I decided to go and test it with startups, right? At that time, I was working with seed stages and early stage startups. And I thought, okay, let me introduce this in my workshops and in the sessions. And I found myself telling the founders to keep that information. The one that clicked the most was the MTP.
Yeah.
And naturally. So, but the other attributes, the internal and external, I was telling them to keep those. You will need them when you want to scale or when you're in your growth and expansion phases. And as I repeated that, I started realizing maybe the early stage and the seed stage are not the perfect for this. So I then went and I tested it with a little bit more mature startup. They were in the growth, not expansion. But I was lucky enough that at that time they were revisiting their app, and the founder was thinking, and he was in the stage of selecting the features and categorizing, prioritizing. And the EXO attributes actually helped him a lot. And there I saw the impact of these attributes on the businesses in the times of scaling and growth. This is where I think the EXO has more of an opportunity. It's not for the seed or the early stages.
Okay, I mean that is kind of interesting. I guess in the original book, in chapter 5, where Salim pretty much says, hey, if you're starting a startup, this is what I recommend. He does say if you're not starting with an MTP, then that's sort of the wrong way to go. And I think that so many startup founders have sort of said this. You're going to be sweating blood, sweat, and tears over this business. Rather do it for something that is going to make an impact and that you enjoy, right?
Right.
And so I think that is really vital. And I do think that some of the attributes can be super helpful early on. Something like community, if you really are trying to grow things, for example. But I definitely think that having seen so many people go through a lot of the programs, we especially the consultant program where you bring a client, right, and you work with them. There's just been such a variety of clients that people have come with, ranging from very large organizations actually through to, I think someone had a golf club as their client, which is kind of strange. People were like, okay, that's an interesting one, but there were even brick and mortar, like a bakery and a camera shop, and so they really found ways to leverage the different attributes, and which is wonderful. And also, I mean, the fact that they've had success in many different regions. You, of course, in MENA, that's sort of where you've spent most of your life. I think. Am I right?
Yeah.
And you know, do you think it's different there in terms of leveraging EXO and what like OpenExO can bring compared to the rest of the world?
Yeah, well, every region is different, and this is a conclusion we came with the Women for Impact programs as we tried to make them universal, and then we made the not the chapters but the regional programs as well. And although we keep saying that the world has become a small village and work has become universal, and at the end of the day we are all the same, we are, but needs are different. Our needs at the moment are different because our cultures are still different some way. So which makes our markets very different. And a trend I kept noticing is the replication of business models from pioneering cities and businesses into the other regions of the world, especially the developing. And the funny thing is, although it might seem like these replicas are the ones that are successful, but the truth that they are not. Mostly successful ones are not exact replicas. If you take Kareem, for example, and I really like to use that example, Kareem was able to beat Uber, the unicorn, at their own game because they did not follow or copy the same strategies. Yes. They adhered to the market needs. And saying that, and I understand how different markets are, and it is no secret that the MENA is headed towards significant changes. We see an economic growth coming. There are accelerating investments in the startups in the region coming from abroad. We have governments performing long-term fiscal reforms, if you noticed in the Gulf especially, and we have rise in oil prices will help also in the growth after the COVID. And EY study said that 76% of MENA companies plan to increase investments in technology and digital transformation. So we're headed there, right? Yes. Add to that we have a majority of populations under 18. This you can read anywhere. And this massive enthusiasm with young people will need growth, right? So there is great opportunities, but as long as we understand that whatever we try to bring in here needs to adhere to the market and because the culture is different. So having both a sense of international understanding and a sense of what the market is and how people think and what they need here is actually, if you have both, I think there are great opportunities for the OpenExO community and all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you know, in terms of the actual EXO model, do you think that there's some attributes that potentially either don't work or that are fairly difficult to implement in the region? And like one that might come to mind might be like, I don't know, the attribute of autonomy, for example, where it's like, okay, give people the opportunity to do things and to take charge themselves versus having a hierarchy. Is that one? I mean, I know that I've worked with a lot of companies where that's a struggle, especially with a and I don't want to be ageist here, but with an older leadership team, they tend to struggle with the idea of autonomy, saying, but people will just play on Facebook all day or play computer games and they won't work. So yeah, do you think that there's any attributes that are like it's tweaked slightly in the region?
Actually, I was thinking social technologies, but the autonomy you mentioned is, I think, yeah, that would be the toughest. And no, you're not an ageist at all. Being tech savvy is not even enough today. Tech savvy is just basic. You need to have, to get to the autonomy and all the social technologies, you need to be a step further. So yes, I totally agree. But let's keep in mind that even in the most pioneering cities, and we're talking San Francisco, there are people who are still not fully autonomous. I have seen young people here in MENA working autonomously. Actually, was really a very, very funny example. I have fellow alumni from my school, 10 years younger than me. Don't ask me how old I am. And they have started their small company, and they have announced before COVID that they want Tuesdays, that they have Tuesdays off so they can finish all the legal work they need to do, and they work on Saturdays optional.
Okay.
At that time, that was back in 2018. I was really, really proud of having, and we have this, but not massively, not everybody. We have this, and we also have people who are more comfortable with a hierarchical system, especially big organizations that have been here for years. So as we say in the exponential, some big companies will stay as they are and others will grow from a seed. So we can, I don't want to say categorize, but deal with them differently maybe.
No, absolutely. And do you actually see some of the larger organizations, I guess, you know, especially in MENA, I mean, many of those large organizations are oil and gas. And, you know, are there edge initiatives happening, you know, where, I mean, obviously you definitely see, you know, some organizations looking very heavily into renewables or into, you know, into leveraging their sort of oil and gas technology, I mean, understanding into new technologies. But do you think that there are, you know, quite a few maybe stealth edge organizations that are being worked on, or is it going to come from the startup world?
Okay, I'm going to be a little bit honest here. I tried. I was faced with dinosaurs. I did. It was a horrible experience. But today, like 5 or 6 years later, because the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, MBS, he's talking about this now. I don't want to go political, but when the whole nation starts talking about renewable energy, that kind of fear of change slowly goes away. So maybe it's the timing that will help, but it is heading there anyways. There will be kind of challenging fear of change, but it is everywhere, isn't it? It is everywhere. For
absolutely. I mean, I guess as a community, we're mostly techno optimists, people who, you know, who have this view of the world that it can be so much better, and hopefully more and more people, I guess, are like that. We've come to the end of the time, Mais. I told you that the time would disappear so quickly.
Yeah,
and so I always like to end the show just with you sharing, you know, that one thing or two things that you think people who are watching should take away and remember as we end off the call today.
Actually, I would like to end as we started. I'm very glad I joined OpenExO, and not for the learning or the experience, although it was really nice, but for the connections and the people and the exposure these people have given me as mates. It's really had an impact on the way I work. Each and every one of the people who left a comment for me or maybe didn't, everyone I worked with had an impact on the way I work. And that actually is my major takeaway from the OpenExO community. And that I think I want to end with that.
Awesome, Mais. It's been great chatting to you. Hopefully we'll get to speak again. It's actually been a very long time. There's just too many people these days to always be connecting.
That's good.
But I feel very connected in different groups and everything. You see comments from people always flying around. So thanks so much for joining us. And
thank you.
We'll chat again soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. So great chatting to Mais today. And do join us again next week. And this week, we're going to end off with a trailer from a video called The Future Is Now, in which Salim Ismail, of course, who's our chairman, got to speak about what the future looks like. You can watch it on YouTube. The link will be on the screen. So do check that out, and we'll see you again next week.
The world is at a crossroads. We are standing before a choice.
If you look back in the history of civilization, right? You had the Romans, the Incas, the Mayans, the Aztecs. They all got to very sophisticated models, and then they hit a boundary condition and they suddenly collapsed. We've gotten to that same level of sophistication. You talk to the Niall Fergusons or the Yuval Hararis, all the conditions that led to the collapse of the Roman Empire, the collapse of the Incas are all there now. We have to navigate it more elegantly so that we don't end up in 300 years of the Dark Ages. And that's the work of, I think, this generation. I think this next 20, 30 years will dictate the next 300 years of humanity.
Don't miss the future. The future is now.